Why you laughing? Ain't shit funny. I'm tryna wait. I'm tryna go hard in the paint. I'm tryna wait. I'm tryna stack cash in the bank. Bitch, let's get to the money. Why you laughing? Ain't shit funny. I'm tryna wait. I'm tryna go hard in the paint. I'm tryna wait. I'm tryna stack cash in the bank.
We back. I ain't going nowhere. I'm right here. New episode. And we got a special guest today. You know who it is, El?
See a queen up in this building. I definitely see a queen here for sure.
It's a queen for sure. It's a queen for sure. A lot of people may not know her, but tonight they will. So her, none other than the one and only Paula Andrea Rodríguez.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. It is truly a pleasure to share this stage with you today, and I'm excited for our talk about sex.
Yeah,
definitely. Oh, she's starting off spicy already. I'll talk about sex. We getting straight into it.
Straight into it.
Yeah. Before we get into it, just to give us your background. I know you're Hispanic, so tell us where you're from, and actually say your name for me because I know y'all wrote the R's. We don't got that.
Sure. So my name is Paola Andrea Rodríguez.
Say the last name again.
Paola Andrea Rodríguez. I am from Bogota, Colombia, and my journey in the field of psychology started really in the 90s. I grew up when there was a lot of terrorism going on in my country. I'm sure you guys are aware of Paula Escobar. And I was just very curious as a kid. As a young kid, I was already asking really big questions.
Yeah.
So I ended up, becoming a therapist and my field and jumping into the sex therapy field about 9 years ago. And been doing, I still do therapy, but I am specializing in sexuality right now.
Wow, that is amazing. That is amazing. So Colombiana, you migrated here because of everything that was going on back home. And you decided, let me go ahead and speak to these people about their trauma. Let me see how I can help them out. And then later on down the line, I want to really know what made you make the transition. Is it because does the energy or basically the aggression, does it come from sexual energy? Is that one of the reasons why you became a sexual therapist?
Well, it's interesting. So I think it all started, which a friend in New York reminded me of this. It started with that show Sex in the City, because as a Colombian woman, we're really taught to quiet down our sexuality.
Yeah.
So when I saw one of the characters, Samantha, talk so openly about sex, that a woman could have sex and doesn't always have to do with commitment or wanting to get married. So there planted the seed, and then went on my merry way. I moved to Boston. I lived in Boston for a while. And when I was in Boston, I started doing private practice. And one of my mentors, Dr. Elliot Cronenfeld, he was going through his certification. Mm-hmm. I said, Paula, hey, I have so many people wanting to work in sexuality. Do you want to take that on? And I said, dale. So I started learning about sex and talking about sex with the clients that I already had.
Yeah.
And it was like Christmas. It was opening. It's such a fundamental connection of the human that I just, curiosity again. It was something new. It was something exciting. And so that's how I started.
I could definitely understand that. The way she said, "Darling," what? You already know. So you're a go-getter. We already know for sure.
A risk taker. I'm not afraid of taking risks. I'm not afraid of taking risks. I think I learned from my dad coming from Colombia, and starting out in the United States. We laugh because everything was see. Do you know how to do this? See. And then he would figure it out later.
Yeah.
So I think I kind of took that from him, that I say yes. And Dr. Elliot Cronenfeld, he really took me under his wing and taught me a lot of the things that I know.
Yeah.
And then I just went ahead and did my full certification in New York at the time.
That's amazing. Peart, you brought an extremely intelligent woman up in the room.
I had to. I have the shades on right now because I have an important question for you, Paula.
Okay.
Paula, how important is sex? Because a lot of people may not know. So how important is it?
It's so important. One part, because I think, like I said, sex is a fundamental connection with the self. It's where you get to play.
Yeah.
It's where you get to express yourselves in ways that you don't really express yourself anywhere else.
So wait, are you saying men are right for thinking about sex first?
That's a very black and white question.
Be honest. Be honest.
But why, women also think about sex,
Definitely.
right? You know what I mean?
Definitely
I think that there's too much of men think about sex, women want connection. I think that there is a bridge to cross. I think both of them are just as important.
Yeah.
Because as we were talking off camera, I was telling you guys, it is a myth that sex is a biological drive. Connection is.
Yeah.
Right? So I think there's so much about sensuality and attraction. And yes, does that entice you? And do you gravitate to that? Sure. Is it everything? Not really.
Yeah, and I could definitely understand that, and just and you tell me, because you're the expert. Just from my personal experience, I see women have way more sex drive. They're way more interested in sex, but is it society that basically brings them down into that shell of not even being able to express themselves?
Yes, because since at least me growing up as a Colombian woman, you're young and mom puts a little dress on you. Don't sit like that. Put your hands like that. Don't wear that.
Yeah.
Right. So I think we're all sexual beings, but there is a lot of negative messages about sex.
Yeah.
If the little girl is like, going like this because there's something about the clitoris that feels good, mom says, don't do that. No hagas eso.
Yeah.
Right. That's not okay. So it's a very confusing message. I think when it comes to women's sexuality, there's a continuum, right? Like we know that men's testosterone, it starts to decrease at age 40. Women, there's seasons. It continues. And I think with men too, we jump too quick into pharmaceuticals and Viagra. I know a lot of young guys that are taking Viagra and they don't really need it.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy. Yes. That's crazy. They're trying to uphold something. That's crazy.
Yes. Speaking of Viagra, do you think working out can help men when it comes to sexual drive then?
Absolutely.
Because it builds with the testosterone and all that? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's natural ways to do that. And for me, when a guy comes in and they're in their 40s and they're already taking Viagra, it makes my job even tougher because now I got to get them off the Viagra because they don't really need it. They're young, they're healthy. But unfortunately, even though urologists are important, sometimes they don't really understand the psychology of sex. The psychology of sex is where it's at. Right, like the most important sexual organ is not between our legs, it's between our ears. The mind.
Wow, that's amazing. So when it comes to a man in his 40s, you're saying he should still be at his prime. He shouldn't be using any drugs or anything like that.
No, of course, if there are other issues that might be more physiological, sure. But no, I think, I've met men in their 30s taking Viagra. It drives me crazy, especially here in Miami. We live in a city where there's a lot of sex, where there's a lot of, there's a lot of stimulation. Yeah. So no, I think, go the natural route, right? I think one of the ways, in which you can continue to feed that sexual desire, imagination, listening to your sensations is something that we don't really teach men a lot. I think women need to know a little bit more about this. But yeah, no, I wouldn't go for Viagra right away. There's a lot more ways that you can still invite yourself to that sexual place.
Yeah, that is so true because now you walk into the gas station, the pills is like right in front of you. Like they're there and just blatantly just say, yeah, you just go ahead and take this pill.
Do you know how much money people make? Penis size? Take this pill and we'll make your penis grow. And guys, you gotta stop worrying about your penis size. My God. Right? Some of the women that I work with, or even in my personal life, have shared most of the most amazing experience, not because of the size of the penis, but really the attention, the energy. Yes.
So size doesn't matter.
Size doesn't matter for some.
Thank you for clearing that.
Because
I thought you were going to say all good. I'm like, wait a minute now. Some women like a leg.
But, it's really interesting that you're saying this because we were having dinner with my friends and they were talking about coochie size. And I'm like, what's coochie size? And they're like, well, sometimes a man's penis is too big and it's just not enjoyable. So the way that I like to think about it, everybody has, I like their curved penises.
It's not a one size
and
fit all.
no, and the curved penis hits her clitoris in the right way or her G spot, and all of a sudden there's this intense orgasm. Women that have never squirted or ejaculated, female ejaculation in the past, and all of a sudden this penis is movement, voila.
So squirting is a thing.
Yes, only as I want to say 25% to 20% of women are reliable female ejaculators, meaning when they orgasm, they ejaculate. Some with the right, in the right context, like we said, with the penis that fits or the right toy. But some women, don't really ever ejaculate, and that's okay too.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Paula, be honest with me, because you know this. Who masturbate more, men or women?
I think men.
I believe you.
But because of societal messages, if women were given their permission to explore their sexuality and there wasn't so many taboos, I bet you that we will be masturbating at a more equal rate.
Is it changing? For right now, because for the past decade, or maybe even more, the women movement have been taking a really fast drive up. There are now the voice, they're the power behind everything.
I think so, but sometimes what concerns me is that I think, listen, it's awesome that we're being more independent and it's awesome that we have a voice. But, it's like, I could do everything myself, right? Like, I could masturbate. I don't need you. Remember, we want to go back to connection. Connection is beautiful.
Woman mentality.
Yes, connection. People are losing hope in relationships. And it drives me nuts because I think relationships are about connection. They're about seeing yourself in the context of someone and having that companionship. So balance for me is key.
I have a question again.
Yeah.
So why do couples stop having sex in a relationship? Like, what's the issue there?
I would say one of the first things that pop into my mind is like bad quality sex and not knowing how to talk about the bad quality sex. Right? I think, again, we go back to gender messages, cultural messages, right? As women, as Latina women especially, we grow up hearing that men's ego is so fragile. We have this word, pobrecito. For him. So that you can't tell you don't like it porque imagínate, pobrecito, y es una fiesta. Right? So I think that this is where it becomes a little bit dangerous because if you're having sex and you're not enjoying it at all, then you start associating sex with a negative experience.
And that's very interesting that you say that because, being us people who have migrated here, from being from other countries or our parents being from other countries, is it a direct relation to why we have definitely more women that are outside of the U.S. that are open to submitting, and also with that factor, because there's a balance there, with that factor of being submissive, they're also, as you were saying, afraid to speak up.
Yes. So I think that it goes back to those cultural expectations, right? I just learned this word, which is a little crazy, guys, but so there's machismo and there's marianismo. And marianismo is kind of silencing, submission, right? Like all of these characteristics. But when I start to see it as a problem, now you're married.
Yeah.
And not the sex that you're having you don't like, but then you can't speak about it. Right? And men feel it too, though. When a woman is not into it and they're just doing it out of obligation or duty, men feel it too. But, it's like, well, at least we're having sex, we're getting the job done. So then it starts to create a very dysfunctional dynamic in the relationship.
So as a sexual therapist, what's the remedy to that?
What's the
remedy? How do you resolve it?
Yeah, I would say, being able to speak your truth and a colleague of mine, Rachel Smith, she talked about the sandwich, and we talk about the feedback sandwich as a way to communicate. but she kind of tweaked it a little bit where she says, after a sexual encounter, maybe a day after, because you don't want to talk about what you're liking or what you're not liking in the middle of sex. No, sex does not like direction, especially in the moment.
You can't direct them in the moment. You can't direct.
I mean, direct with your body. You can, but when you're like, don't do it like this, don't do it like that,
No, make it sexy.
Yes.
In the moment.
But afterwards, maybe like a day later, she suggests start with the first part, which is something positive. Hey, I really liked, how you played with my nipples today. That was really sensual. I wonder. The middle is like, oh, the way that you were kind of rubbing my back, it was a little bit too much pressure. And then a solution or something that we can come up with together, right? To say, well, you know what, next time, how about we try this?
Yeah.
So it's a safer way to talk about things, but I make it sound easy because if you always grew up in a culture where you were taught to silence your sexuality, immigrants, you come into this country, you're the oldest child of an immigrant family, your needs are all the way back there because you got to fill the forms, you got to talk to your parents. They're lost. It's like, where the hell are my needs? So then there's a lot of messages that you have to undo to get yourself there.
Yeah. So we was talking off the record about this question that Elle made. I want to bring it up to you again. Does the relationship problem start when there's no more sex?
No sex is a symptom of already a problematic system.
Repeat that one more time. I'm a little slow.
Sure. So the lack of sex is a symptom of something else, some other area of the relationship that's not working.
So you don't just wake up and just not have sex.
No. I don't know. If so, right, like we know that as men get older, men actually are the ones that stop having sex first because they're so afraid of the rejection. Am I going to be able to? But it's not usual. People come in as a sex therapy case, and when I start unpacking lack of connection, lack of communication, not feeling wanted. Esther Perel, guys, if you don't know her, she's pretty amazing, but she talks about women's sexuality can be very self-centered. They need to feel wanted. I mean, I think feeling wanted and seen is we never outgrow that as humans.
Yeah.
Right? So I think, there's such an important part. She says, before asking a woman whether you want to have sex with me, you got to ask her, do you want to have sex with yourself? Do you want to make love to yourself? So we got to feel good about it. And I think we stop paying attention. We get married, we're not committed relationship, the cookie cutter, we buy a house, we got a dog, we have a kid, and then we stop being curious.
So making that point, is it important for them to start in stages where first you go through the actual psychological therapy and then transition to sexual therapy?
No, because I think they go hand in hand, right? They go hand in hand. So, when people come in to see me for a session, I take a full history. Your attachment injuries. How do you grow up? How do you learn love? Were your parents physically affectionate with one another, right? Did you trust your parents? Because if we grew up with a mom that we can't trust because of their, emotional instability, then we are going to have a hard time trusting women and seeing things the other way around. So I think they go hand in hand. There's sex therapy. There's always a psychological component because that's what I do. I study and practice and explore the psychology part of the lack of sex.
Yeah.
So, Paola.
Yes.
How many marriages have you helped since you've been doing this sex therapy?
Oh my God, I don't know. I've worked with a lot of couples. I love working with couples, but I think maybe I can talk a little bit about the couples that are successful in therapy. One, people that come in not when they're about to throw in the towel. When people come in when they're about to throw in the towel, it's like them coming to the emergency room, me starting their heart and hoping that they survive.
Yeah.
When you come in as maintenance, as like, hey, it's been about 6 months and we're just, we're not vibing. There's something. Those are the best couples to work with because then it's a little bit of tweaking, it's a little bit of reconnecting. Resentments, when resentments get built and they cement, then it's tough.
So you gotta take your relationship to a tune-up.
Yes, exactly. Oh, I love that analogy. You gotta take your relationship for a tune-up. Yes, so.
Wow. Peart, you have another one that you wanted to ask?
I'm still thinking about the tune-up. So yeah, off the record, we were also talking about another thing as well. What are the different relationships you provide sex therapy for?
So all types of relationships, right? Like there's polyamory, there's open relationships, queer, LGBTQI, trans relationships, anybody.
You said I? This I?
Yes.
Wow.
They keep on asking, right? So I think that anybody that is interested in understanding themselves sexually, right? Like there are couples that maybe when they got together, the person hadn't come out yet, and then maybe they came out later, so I mean, we can't be afraid of change, right? Change is going to happen. So, but all types of relationships, anybody that needs a tune-up or wants to work on their sexual relationship, everybody's welcome.
Wow. So being that you work with in different relationships, when it comes to, let's say for monogamous relationship, what's the most common, the common problem that you would say that stems from that relationship?
So what I would say, but I almost feel that this shows up in a lot of relationships, right? When desire discrepancies, when one partner is the higher desire partner and the other one is low desire. One person wants it more, one person wants it less.
Wow.
Right? But if you guys think about it, as we're talking about sex, but that's always the case.
Yeah.
One person wants a kid, the other one doesn't. One person wants to buy a house. There's always that. The thing is that if we learn to recognize that this is eventually going to happen in your relationship, then it's a lot easier. But no. Right?
So it doesn't really, when it comes to basically the desire, so it doesn't really affect, or it shouldn't affect that a person would compromise. Is that a good term to use? Yeah.
Sure, because, one person is going to pursue and the other person is going to be a little bit slower to get there. Give that person, the person that's a little bit slower to get there, give them the time. And the person that pursues, self-soothe, right? Like understand that this is a part of the relationship. What happens is that the person that wants it more starts to tell themselves a narrative. You don't like me, you don't want me, I'm not attractive, I put on a pound. This means narratives, and they live in our mind a lot of the time. We don't talk about them. And then what I find is that the lower desire partner, because we have learned through movies and the media that sex should be natural if you love somebody. Then they identify themselves as the problem. And
so it takes some work. So sex is work also.
Well, I don't want people to see it as work because boring, right? Intention. We
I love
have
that.
to be
So that's actually one of my favorite words.
Yes.
Like top favorite word.
Intention. It's not work. It's intention. Right? Like if you guys think about it, we are intentional about everything that's important.
Yeah.
So what makes sex different? The thing is that we've learned that sex is supposed to be natural and desire is supposed to happen and fall of the sky. That is not true. And when we learn that, good things can start to happen. That makes the difference between a couple that gets stuck or a couple that is flexible and resilient.
Wow, that's amazing. So, go ahead, Peart.
I was just gonna say, would you consider sex a workout, like an actual exercise?
Hey, it depends how hard you're going at it.
Okay.
Calves, legs,
For sure. I definitely understand that. It'd be some workouts, and you can't be sore.
Yes,
Really perform.
Yes, and I think, but with the difference between the workout and when we go to the gym and a workout in sex is we have to be really in tune and immersed in the experience to notice if our partner has that rhythm. What I notice a lot of the time is that, we're you know, people are afraid of losing their erection, or women, oh my God, am I going to get an orgasm? They take themselves out of the experience. Connection is so important, and feeling that energy. I mean, the three of us can probably think of a sexual encounter that was one of our best ones. What do you say? Peart, talk to me.
I'm listening. I was thinking, but I'm listening. Man, brought back flashback. Oh, we're on a podcast. Let me focus.
Or even when somebody gives you a look. I had one of those not too long ago. Somebody just gives you a look and you're like, oh. And you're not even touching each other.
So it's all about how you manage your energy.
Yes. And so if you're working out because you're like, and the other person's like, you know.
So speaking about working out then, so is it important for both partners to be compatible where, let's say, even if it's not them thinking about actually going to the gym to work out, where both think about working out and have the activity, that sort of activity where they actually exercise is that important for both people?
Well, I think it goes back to what attracts you, right? So you're saying if people both work out, but compatibility, I don't know. Compatibility is interesting. I think compatibility to me is about accepting differences and also asking yourself, okay, if there's something really different between you and I, am I willing to live with that?
Okay.
Am I willing to live with that difference? Right? And if people both want to be super buff and, that's their attraction, sure. But what I want people to understand is that there's something for everybody, right? Like when we think about the world of fetishes and kink, who are we to judge what people like?
True.
And the biggest myth with kink and BDSM is that, oh my God, I don't want to get beat. No, it's an intensified sensation, right? So I wholeheartedly believe in sensation play. We got to use our senses to get back ourselves into the present moment. That is our biggest challenge right now, being in the present moment, guys. That is the biggest challenge right now.
That's definitely true. So how you navigate? I'm a workaholic. Like, I'm a complete workaholic. But I do also know I have a high sex drive. So I know that too. So I know when it comes to balance. Now, most of the times, especially if I have a mate, I'm definitely going to lean more towards working and doing more. But I do know when I have a mate, I'm a very attentive person. So I'm going to be more cautious of making that time for it because I know how much I can work if I don't make that time.
Mm-hmm. And do you see, though, because I think sometimes where people can kind of fall into the trap, well, because I have a sex drive and because I'm a workaholic, okay, I got to shut this part of myself off because it's going to be a distraction, right? So I think, how do we balance both of those energies? Because I think that's really interesting, right? Like, work is really important for you, but how do you make time for that as well?
Yeah.
Right? Because I think that we all need that balance.
For that balance is key. And I have another question for you, Paula.
Okay.
Be honest with me. Does attraction matter when it comes to sex?
Yes. However.
Physical?
Yes. But attraction is layered for me, right? Because thoughts can affect attraction. What you're surrounded by can influence what you're attracted to.
I'm like that, completely like that.
Tell me.
For me, everything goes from intentions. The intentions derive from your energy. Your energy, to me, connects to your soul, to your essence. So a certain type of person, you could be the most beautiful woman, the sexiest woman in the world, quote unquote. I'm not attracted to you like that. Like, because we don't have that same type of energy or same type of essence. We can't have certain conversations. So I'm definitely completely like
yeah,
that.
Sure. Imagine a very good looking guy, but that is maybe not nice to the server, or it's mean to people. Attraction goes out of the window like this. I thought that
so women don't like mean guys?
No. Whoever told you that is that.
No, I beg to differ.
So wait.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between a mean guy and a bad boy?
I have a theory. One of many. I think that people that are attracted to bad boys, there's something about, I think something else is playing out because the bad boys are never fully available. So these are people that want a connection and long for connection, but are too afraid to invest fully.
Can I input?
Yes.
I think most women love bad guys because they can provide protection and excitement. And if a woman gets bored, they're going to go to that. Would you agree? Because a nice guy, they will settle for it. But if a woman gets bored, and women get bored easily, a lot of women don't admit it. Y'all get bored easily, especially in sex, like you said, if it's not good. So the bad boy brings all that, the good sex, the protection, the excitement, the curiosity. And you brought up curiosity a lot in this call. I listen to it. So that's why I say every man should be a bad boy. Not treat a woman bad, but to give her that excitement and protection. Because you nice guys, I'm sorry, you can be as nice as you want. It's not going to win in the end.
But
it's the
how are
truth.
we defining nice guy and bad boy though?
Nice guys like simp, like open the door, overly loving you too much. Like, come on, we just
Yes,
talked.
but
We
there's
just
a
talked on the phone. Why are you
That's
saying you
needy.
miss me?
That's needy.
That's a nice guy.
No,
Why are you saying you miss me? We just talked 5 minutes ago.
That's a needy
So a needy guy's not.
Every woman, remember,
Yeah.
like nobody being suffocated. Nobody likes to be suffocated, and people that unfortunately, and even when we call someone needy, guys, of course, I'm gonna bring the psychology into it. There's attachment injuries there, right? Like this person may be afraid of abandonment. This person, probably had a rupture of trust in their upbringing. So everything has an explanation. I think you have a point where we're talking about this person longing connection, but not being ready for the investment. That idea of I want protection, but I also want excitement. But right? And I think for people that notice that I'm constantly going after this a certain type of person, look into that. Because what I find is that a lot of the times you're replaying an earlier trauma or you're replaying an earlier dynamic.
I never thought of it like
I
that.
believe that for sure.
Yes.
I'll be 100%. Like, I've always wanted to be a psychologist. I'm a complete
L, be for real. You
100% psychologist.
okay.
I love it.
I just can't picture you doing that, but you smart.
Me
So
too.
I'm an empath, so I know my capacity, and I might be better with it now. But back then, my younger days, I knew that I may not be able to separate that to take somebody's trauma and be able to then leave and not carry it with me.
Yes. Well, listen. My career started with foster care kids.
Yeah.
And it was so hard, and I definitely fell into that. I remember Monday through Friday, I would work, and my job was always like, I got to take care, but I would get overly involved. Friday to Sunday, I would disconnect, but not in healthy ways. Right? I used to live in Fort Lauderdale, drove my ass to Miami, and Miami has a lot to offer, so you can imagine. As I've been, it's about staying in the career long enough because now I can afford a therapist of my own. I have my own supervisor who's overlooking my work.
Yeah.
So now I can, and now when I disconnect to reconnect to me,
I learned that.
right? Which is a whole escaping and disconnecting, two different things.
Yeah.
Right. So to your point, yeah, a lot of my therapists out there, I love working with therapists. It's a tough job, but if you stick it out long enough and really have a good support system and learn, we sometimes hold ourselves to like impossible standards.
Yeah.
Right. So you have a point because people do go through that, get burned out. I graduated my class when I did my master's degree. I think only like 2 people were practicing psychology. A lot of people weren't stopped practicing because of that.
Yeah, for sure. Black persons.
yeah. So Paula, sorry about the inconvenience here. How long have you been doing this sex therapy now?
So I've been a therapist for over like 17 years. Sex therapy about 9 to 10.
Oh, okay. I was curious about that. So we already talked about why you wanted to do sex therapy, correct?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So ever since you've been doing it, you have a real love and passion for it, right? And you don't decide on doing anything else with it? Because you said you have a YouTube, right?
Yeah, well, I think so my other mission is to provide better sex education. Because not only do we live in South Florida where unfortunately talking about sex is literally banned, and it's being sold in a way that I really dislike, but we need better sex education because if we have better sex education since an early age, we can protect our children for a lot of sexual trauma, from a lot of things.
Because they don't really teach it in schools like that, so yeah.
No, and, we know that where sex education is not tied to a morality issue, kids are having sex later, less teen pregnancies, less STIs. So my other mission is to really educate the public and be able to provide good sex education and help people debunk myths because
help people do what? Debunk what?
Debunk myths, false things about sex.
Oh, okay.
So if, right, like when we were talking about kink, right, like if you like kink, it means that, no, we make too many assumptions nowadays, I feel. So that's my other mission, to educate people around sexuality.
So sensuality is a very, very strong word. So with everything you're doing when it comes to sex therapy, is sensuality the most important or most key ingredient?
I would say one of them. Yes, because, okay, think about, and I don't know if you guys know the answer to this, but what is your most erotic sense? Meaning, do you like auditory? Do you like visual? Do you like touch? And before you answer that question, a lot of men say, I'm visual. Right? There may be other ones they are. Yes, everything comes through the eyes, but touch and so sensuality, especially for women, right? Women, sensuality is key. Why? Because I think as women, we're planners, we're nurturers, we're constantly thinking. And so when you're able to caress her whole body, without touching her genitals, but going really close to her vulva, going around the nipple, right? Like now you have her attention. Now you're helping her be in the experience.
That's poetry right there.
Music.
Right.
I had a really interesting experience, guys. And, when COVID was happening, we were all wearing masks. So I go to Publix, I'm wearing my mask. And this guy behind me, I hadn't even seen him, but all he had to say was, excuse me. And there was something about his voice that I was like, oh, nothing sexual, right? Like, my partner was somewhere else in Publix, but there was something, I'm like, oh, auditory is one of mine.
Yeah, I believe words are verbs for sure. And one of the top things, this is something I've heard recently that I knew, but confirmation is everything. So one of the top things is women like it when I speak and say certain things. So when I speak, they like the conversation and things like that, and hate it if I'm too silent for too long. Because I'm naturally an introvert. So I'm naturally silent, but they like it better when I'm more outspoken and speaking and saying certain things.
But as you and I were talking, I think you also listen. Right? We were, shooting the shade and talking about a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And I could see you tuning in and ask a question, listening. Because what I noticed is that a lot of my women tell me, Paola, I went on a date and the guy talked my ear off the whole time. Tell me about his girlfriend and the mom and the kid. And it's like, there's a difference between talking at you, because this is what I'm supposed to do, right? And the amount of men teaching men how to go on dates and giving them wrong information or wrong advice, it drives me crazy.
I'll be 100%. I will take advice from no men. Every advice I've taken is from women. I don't take no advice from men at all.
Right. So you are also a good listener. Listening is key, because if I'm just talking at you and asking robotic questions, I'm going to see that you're not being authentic and you're not here with me. You're not being genuine. And that's when I'm going to check out.
Ooh, that's my other top word, genuine.
Yes. I'm just reading your mind.
That's a definite fact.
Because there's so much. I mean, social media right now is people could be anybody on social media. We watch snippets of people's life and we imagine that they have it all together.
Biggest lie is social media.
Biggest lie. So when you see authenticity, when you see that look that I'm talking about, when you feel that vibe, when everything is just kind of goes away and we're not there, we're so afraid to get hurt that if the person says, oh, so I'm a very sexual person. You only want me for sex. Why am I here? No, stop assuming. Assumptions are dead ends. Definitely. Right? But we're afraid to get hurt. So we think that we have to figure the person out right away. Yeah. So I think, when you meet somebody who's authentic and genuine, that just feels so good.
It's amazing. And that's really what it is when it comes to being selective. And we spoke about me being a workaholic. I'm a hopeless romantic first.
Hopeful.
Hopeful? That is it. That's better. Hopeful.
Why are we hopeless?
Hopeful romantic. I'm going to change my term now. Y'all been teaching me wrong. The word is hopeful. Hopeful romantic.
Yes.
So I'm a hopeful romantic first. And then I'm a workaholic. But what I do is I intentionally drive my sexual energy into my work habits. So that's what I do all the time. And most of the time, it's really, even if the woman is making an advance, I will deny her real quick because I'm like, no, if it's fine if she's making an advance, and I actually prefer a woman to make an advance, to be honest with you. But sometimes it's more of, I already know just based on that essence, we go back to that essence that this is going to be a waste of my time. and it's not that.
Could you tell?
I was going to say it's not even that I feel like, oh, I'm just right, but it's just going through the practices. And I think I've gone through enough where I'm like, I've had this conceived notion or intuition. I had the intuition.
But remember, intuition gets a little bit confused. If you had an experience that was hurtful, your compass is going to be off.
I don't think I've had hurtful experiences though.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't think it's by hurtful experiences, nor if I did have an experience, nor do I carry that experience. I'll probably forget if I had experience. I'll probably forget after I process the emotion. I most likely will forget that experience happened. And the only thing I would say is, maybe I used too much of the time when I had enough information, enough data. I maybe used too much of the time giving them that benefit of the doubt or that grace period. So it becomes that situation where I'm using the experience, I would say, of going through all this person, that intuition I had about this person. If I continue on and I have these intuition, now I'm going on a pattern. Now I'm repeating, and I hate going through the process of cycles. So now I'm going to repeat a pattern because I'm trying to be a hopeful romantic. I got a new term, guys. I'm trying to be a hopeful romantic, but I knew from the beginning that this would have been a waste of my time.
Hopeful romantic, you heard it here. But wait, because I wonder, right, I hear this idea of being a workaholic. I wonder if unknowingly, right, you're already thinking, because relationships do take time. They take commitment, they take investment, right? So I wonder if there's a part of you that maybe, kind of denies that because it's going to unfocus you a bit. Because no two humans are the same.
Yeah.
Right? And don't get me wrong, I understand that if you have enough experiences, maybe, but it's hard to predict human behavior. I am in the business and I've been doing this for years. And I can predict certain patterns depending on what the person is presenting. Yeah. But I'm going deep in their attachment history. It's hard to predict behavior without really giving yourself the chance if that's actually going to happen or not.
Yeah, and I can say there's fault to it. To me, there's gonna be maybe a level of fault that happens or happened before, because it's more so where I'm, again, wanting to be a psychologist. I'm gonna tell you the top two jobs I wanted to do. I wanted to be an architect, very first. That's the very first, and then I wanted to go into psychology. So building and understanding, I guess, would be the two.
That's what you're doing,
right?
Building and then you're understanding.
Yeah. So
you've done it.
So that's what I'm intentionally doing. Yeah. So maybe, and I'm sorry if anybody got hurt by it. Hopefully they didn't, because I try to be, as understanding and compassionate through the process. So going through it is seeing their traumas, and it's more. And when I speak about really like giving that grace period and benefit of the doubt, I really do try and give that advice. You know, maybe some people not as long as others, because I probably see a degree of trauma where I'm like, oh no, this is gonna take her to do this, not me to try to help her out.
Yes, and I would say, along with giving people the benefit of the doubt, because if you just do that, then sometimes what's gonna happen is that you're gonna give the benefit of the doubt, but again, unknowingly, you're gonna test the relationship. Unknowingly, you may not even notice that you're doing this. Give the benefit of the doubt, but also allow yourself to express to that person, what was it about that bothered you?
Yeah.
People, like, they wait to talk about stuff when it's like at a 9.
Yeah.
They hatch it at a 3, because when it's at a 9, the person leaves the coffee mug. Why do you leave the freaking coffee mug? It's not about the coffee mug. Right? Or you start to detach and disassociate or distance because now you're in protective mode.
I'm a very distant person, like, yeah, for sure. Like,
yeah, and notice if you do that when you feel that you're starting to protect yourself. When you're reading something in the environment that you're seeing as threatening or scary, and that's when we're like,
yeah.
Why wouldn't we? As humans, we're meant to protect.
I think my habit, I don't know if I think things are scary, but I do think my habit is when we go through the bit of the cycle of trying to understand the person and being able to say, hey, this is what I'm noticing this, and I'm noticing that. And they're really, maybe at the moment they're saying they're hearing it, because if you're not understanding at the very least, if I see that the first time we spoke, you're not understanding, I'll probably go distant right then and there. Like, yeah, this is not going to work out. I'll probably tell you that, hey, this is not going to work out. No matter how much you try, at that point, I'm distant, I'm gone. And then there is a certain point where I'm trying with them, like, hey, are you, trying to change? I'm trying to gauge their intention. Are you really trying to change? Because, people say that they want to change all the time. So are you really trying to change? And when I see that pattern, I'm like, okay, yeah.
That's a tough one, because change is so hard. You gotta, but you
gotta have discipline.
Yeah, for me, is if you're making the effort is the outcome. If we get caught up in, I told you this once, and you didn't do it, right? That's okay, really. Like it takes, yeah. And so I think, this idea of giving, I love what you said. No, hey, I've noticed, because that's a good way to start a conversation with someone, because you're not saying you or why do you, but hey, I noticed. Neutral, you and I are eye to eye, but also tell them, hey, moving forward, I would like, it would really help if you, right? So notice with also a desire, a want, or a need. Right? And if you're but relationships need investment.
Yeah.
So if you are in a time where you're like, you really got to question whether you're willing to be intentional about keeping this relationship going, because it will take many conversations. Most people don't do things to hurt you. It comes from, I always use this analogy, that if you see somebody punch someone, you're like, oh, look at this person, what a bad person. But then you're like, oh, this person was in foster care. Oh, domestic violence between their parents. Oh, grew up in a place where you could only be the wolf for the lamb. They had to protect themselves. Oh, they got triggered that day. Oh, they're impulsive, right? All these explanations to a behavior. To think that people behave that way because of one explanation is silly.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really looking at the complexities and the layers that attach to a certain behavior.
So if I may ask you, is it, how do you view it to treat a relationship like a business and treating a business like a relationship?
Yeah, I actually use that analogy here and there.
Wow.
Because, if you have a business and you never pick up the phone,
it's a bad business. It's a badass business. I'm gonna let you know right now.
If you have a business, but
it's a badass business. Whoever watching this, that is not a good business. You're lazy.
If you have a business, but you're not giving it attention, right? You're not checking in with your employees. What do you think is gonna happen? Bad business.
It's a badass business.
So I think that, yes, there's something about that I like that analogy. And, you know, couples that maybe have a dual relationship where they have businesses and they're also in an intimate relationship, you know, it's important to understand you got to give attention is at the core of connection.
So I'm not that crazy.
That's true.
And we have a whole world trying to pull us away from the now.
Yeah.
We have a whole world constantly pulling away.
Yeah, definitely with social media. Like, and speaking about first with that conversation on business, because I wanted to speak about the social media and disattaching the relationships and sex and things like that. But first, with the relationships, one of the top things I try to be forthcoming and say, hey, when you're getting in a relationship with me, you're getting in a relationship with my business, because this is essentially, that's like my first wife.
Facts.
You know, that's my passion, that's this and that. So I go into that a lot and explain that, yeah, because once it's a situation where we're involved with each other, I want to be involved in your business or your education, whatever you're doing also. So a lot of the conversations then become about time and things such as that. So
yeah, so I would say I'll also think about a relationship like a garden, right? Like if you don't water it, the plants aren't going to grow. But see, there's something interesting there because, okay, let's say that you tell someone like, listen, my business comes first. So now that person feels, well, I'm always going to come second. And then again, let's go to attachment traumas. If they grew up always feeling second, eventually that's not going to work, right? And so how do you... right? Like, what are the expectations around it? Because usually people that are really focused on their business, like, hey, you know, business first, really what they're saying, don't expect too much from me. So so you're telling me that you want to be in a relationship with me, but you don't want me to have it.
So we shouldn't say business first.
Because my business is important, this is what I can provide. And we're going to have to work through, right? And I need you to be open with me when I'm maybe not noticing that I'm not committing enough time to you. It's not about quantity in that presentation. It's about quality.
Okay.
Right. And
so then that would mean that the question about time is the quality. When you're spending the time, what's the quality, how involved and intentional?
Yeah. So, and also I think people that, you know, you're creating, you're doing a lot, you know, we're all here trying to make it happen. I get most of my inspiration when I'm out and about, when I'm at the beach, when I'm hanging out with friends, when I go to an art museum or, you know, so it is novelty. It's important for you to check out from time to time because you're going to feel inspired.
Oh, I need to start checking out.
Yeah. So that quality time, right? Like, how do you spend quality time with you as well? You know, because when we do all of the same, you know, it's a lot. It gets overwhelming. Studies show that you actually retain more information when you take a break from studying.
Yeah.
We all need that little break.
So you have to disconnect to connect.
Yes.
Like you said.
Yes.
I know I'm for out here.
Hey.
He's got that,
Man.
Yeah, listen.
Or a band.
Points.
Yeah.
Points.
Yeah. I love it.
Just saying. I love it.
And I think part of connection, guys, because we were also talking about masturbation and men, right? And I gave everybody in this room homework to masturbate without porn, and they all looked at me like I was crazy, which usually happens.
That's my homework. All right, that's the homework that I have.
It's about Peart is that he's not with it. You're not like about.
I'm not with that. I need to see booty cheeks for me to bust a nut. I'm just saying.
Imagine the booty cheeks. Feel.
I have to see the booty cheeks.
Yes, but that was gonna happen when you have sex with your same partner for a long period of time. You're gonna have to use imagination. You know, fantasizing, because that is double stimulation.
So wait. If we're in the middle and I'm fantasizing about it, isn't that an issue?
Why? If you're fantasizing about a sensation or a visual, are you cheating on your partner? And would you? But then here's the question: would you be okay your partner doing the same?
No. What do you think? What do you think, El? I'm sorry. I'm saying no. What do you think? What do you think?
They have the right to their privacy. Whatever's in their thoughts, in their mind, it's theirs. Like,
and guys, and I'm not saying like you're literally detached and you're like fantasizing about the neighbor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think fantasies are a way.
Yeah. If you fantasize about neighbor, you better tell me that.
You're right.
What? Hold on.
You better communicate with me. Right.
But that's such a beautiful question because people, they feel bad about fantasizing, and then we have when it comes to OnlyFans, so many married couples, right? Like that go to OnlyFans. Why? Because these models, the sex workers, are okay with their fantasies. To think that we don't fantasize is, silly. So, it's so important. For me, relationship zen is when you can be yourself, your full self. This is who I am. This is what I like. But I do agree with you, all that some things are meant to be private. Yeah. Do I want to look at your porn history? No, bro.
Please don't look at mine.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't mind sharing mine. I don't know how comfortable women are with sharing theirs.
Do you want to see theirs?
I don't mind seeing theirs.
Okay.
I don't think.
But it's not a requirement.
It's not a requirement. But I don't think. I hope I've trained myself enough not to be judgmental. Yeah. And if it is that outrageous, like you do you. It's your thing. That's your thing. You feel me? And if it's something that I feel like is too much for me, then I'll say yes, too much. But hopefully, I'll try my best not to let it affect us. Otherwise, we'll come see you.
Love it. And I think because there's so much pressure now. Don't be judgmental. Good vibes only. Right? Like we all have judgments, but what's important is to be aware of them. Yeah. Because judgments come from fear and lack of understanding. Wow. Right? So if you see that your partner is into something that you're like, oh, flogging, or like wax play, and you're like, oh, you like pain? Well, no, try to understand, because neither one of those two are painful unless you want it to be. Right? So I think judgments, we all grow up with judgments. Yeah. There's so much pressure to be, non-judgmental. That's not true. You just got to work on them and understand where they came from and grow away from them.
I agree, because I believe there's judgment and there's criticism. And people say constructive criticism. I don't know how true that word is, but I believe if you're going to criticize, it's supposed to be constructive. Otherwise, it's judgment.
I like feedback and ask that person permission. Hey, can I give you some feedback? Yeah. And that person can say no. Yeah. Right? Because I think that there is a difference. Constructive criticism, yeah. I don't love... Yeah.
Yeah, because... because I've managed some OnlyFans accounts and actually assist with creating some content.
Can I help you manage that? Oh, good. I just want to help you manage it. Can you need help managing it? I like to experience.
The model has to be comfortable.
Oh, okay.
But when it comes to it, it's more so, and I tap out a lot because it's like, okay, I think I understand the part of monetizing the content, but there's a lot of times I don't see the central part of it. So, when you're speaking about desensitized, I'm extremely desensitized to a lot of things. However, I love sensuality. So if it's sensual, then I can understand it. But there's a lot of times it's more about the money than the actual value of the content. If you're gonna do art, because to me it's art. Even porn is art. So I don't really like seeing certain things. I don't even watch porn much. If I do, I'll be 100%. It's because I don't want to make a bad decision. So, so that's really what it is. So it's more like with being able to in and out. I'm asking this because I want to ask you if you've ever had that conversation for OnlyFans models, and I know you speak with dominatrix. So is there a moment where you speak to them and give them that constructive criticism? I'm gonna just use a term that they should be more sensual in what they're doing. Maybe it'll be something that they themselves will accept more, because I notice there's a lot of majority that they want to hide it from the world. Like they don't really want people to see. You're already putting on the internet, so a lot of people are going to see it. but they still want to hide it to a certain extent.
Yeah. So for me, the question to open up that discussion is, what is your relationship to the work that you do? Right? Because I think it is in many ways work. And how do you find people that do sex work? How do they create a sexual lives outside of their work? Because to your point, I was just doing a interview with my camera guy, Rich, love you. And we were talking about people behind the scenes and how he too is desensitized for all, because he's constantly watching this, and so it takes some a longer time to be able to ejaculate, or when he's in a sexual experience, he wants to prolong the feeling. So I think that it is important. It's tough because can they be more sensual, and what would that look like? But first, what is your relationship to the work that you do? What happens to your body? Because in order for you to be sensual, you have to be present. And unfortunately, given the circumstance, given the context, some of the sex workers may disconnect. I'm just doing this as a job. There is no connection here. So I think that, Erica Lust is one of my favorite producers when it comes to erotic porn. Because she is like super in tune to the scene. If she sees that she's no longer into it, there needs to be more lubrication. If he's going at it too hard, she stops it. She makes sure that everybody has, so it can be more sensual, so people can be more into it. So I think, is that the sex workers more the people that are producing the film? I wonder, right? I think it's more the people.
Yeah, because now the direction have changed. It's no longer producers, which is to me is amazing, because you're now an executive producer of your content. So that's amazing to me that you now have control over it, and it doesn't. To me, when it comes to the OnlyFans, it shouldn't feel like work, because if you're deciding to do this, there should be passion behind it. So it really shouldn't feel like work. But I do get that, monetary issues and things like that. I get it. I understand. But to me, it shouldn't feel like work. That's why I tap out. Because if you're doing it for money and we're trying to work together, it doesn't work for me for a lot of things. If you're driven by the money itself, I can't do it, because, as you say, let's take it from being sex workers. Like, where's your sensuality in your work itself? Like, in your business, where's your sensuality with your business? How do you have an actual relationship to what you're doing and show passion?
Yeah, well, I think it's tough, but I think one of the, I love working with sex workers, because just like therapists, and we needing our own therapy, just like people that are first responders, police officers, firefighters, these are jobs that you need to be able to debrief. Because how beautiful could it be that you understand your relationship to work, and that you could go to work and be more in tune? Because if you really love what you do, you're going to be able to monetize that even more, right? So I think sex workers really need more support, but imagine this job has also been stigmatized, right? So it's like, it's tough, but I'm an advocate for sex workers. I think that they all need places and support to be able to do what you're saying, because it's tough to just not see it as work.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And like that, the OnlyFans thing, when it came out, first it was just a regular platform, guys. What it is now, what people basically label it as, that's not what it is. It's a platform. It could have been just like Instagram. It's just the direction changed and the trajectory changed, because that sort of content took over the platform. So I think when they started first taking over, the sex workers started taking over, I was all in for it. I was like, that's good. They got their own thing. They can produce their own content. They don't have to fall prey to the industry. Basically, because I'm big on ownership of your content, being able to do something that you want to do. So that's in everything: music, life, business, work, whatever it is. Like, you have to, if you're doing it, I think you should want to do it.
Yeah,
So,
but imagine. Yes, but imagine. I think that a lot of, unfortunately, sex workers do fall into, you expressed it one way, because people make it look easy. We see it on social media all the time. Oh, I sent dick pics. Sorry. I sent feet pics.
Whoa, wait a minute.
But listen,
No, you telling the truth now. You telling the truth.
I send feet pics, my feet, and I make X amount of money, and everybody's like, oh, or I do this and I make X amount of money. So people make it look easy. There's, how much behind the scenes there is, and then people see these curated images and they think that that's sex, and that it should be like that. So there is just so much to say about
what it is that they go in, they forget because. Yes, if it's a passion, that's amazing because they're going to be able to stick through it. But if you're going in there thinking it's work and you're going in there just for the money, you think it's easy, I'm going to make a quick buck, make a quick million. Because there's online, OnlyFans workers who've actually made millions and such as that. So they're thinking they're going to make a quick buck, like, oh, this is going to be easy. But they forget that the work behind it, even just doing the content itself is work. And in order to, especially if let's say in the industry, let's say the adult industry, most of the people who are actually consuming it on a regular basis are people who actually appreciate it, who actually want to see the work. So if you're going in there, you're not really giving them that quality, you're not really caring for it, they're going to know they're not going to stay on your page.
Yeah.
The marketing itself is something too. Yeah, properly market yourself. Present yourself properly, because I go in there sometimes and I'll be wanting to have conversations, but if you're spamming me with messages that are just strictly about following your page and just that third, then we can't have a conversation because you're not taking that moment to stop to understand what the audience want. So that's one of the top things. So it's, if you're not basically doing customer service in that matter, and doing customer service, if you're not trying to really do something where people are going to enjoy, you're just going to make money, you're not going to make the actual funds that you're looking for because you don't care for the work, really.
No, and you got to take care of yourself. I think, sex work, it's in many ways, it is a job, right? So, but I think it's all about like self-care, because the sex workers, that I've met that are still in the, doing it, they're caretakers, right? Like when we think about OnlyFans and all the men that go and the wife or the partner finds a bill of their credit card, right? Like they're what the hell, there's a certain level of acceptance that they're getting from the model that they don't get at home. So, we gotta get better at communicating and not judging, right? Like creating those bridges, and for sex workers to be able, because it might have been a passion in the beginning, but to keep that being a passion, right? Like if I would have given up in my foster care days because it was really heavy work, I wouldn't be sitting here with you guys right now, right? Like it's having enough support to be able to know, like, hey, having enough support. I think sex workers need a lot of support, and I'm here for it.
So speaking about that, then first, before I ask this next question, how do you feel about those who are watching the adult films? How do you feel about them taking that into the bedroom?
Preference, right? Preference. Again, it's multiple stimulation, right? So if you're a visual person and you have it on the back and you're connecting to your partner, why not? Just wait.
While the action is happening, you have them playing in the background?
Yeah, I mean, for some people who like that, I thought that's what you were asking. Like if...
Yeah, it answers the question, but that kind of surprised me. Like,
yes, remember, everybody preferences are like everybody is kind of saying.
Don't say everybody.
Are there two penises that look the same? No, right? Like so, everybody has different preferences. I don't know if that analogy makes sense.
For us, like hopefully you have.
But I'm just saying, some people enjoy that. Some people are like, they like to have erotic films in the back. It's a way for them to get into it. Other people are totally against it. The problem becomes when one person enjoys it and the other one doesn't. So again, you talked about compromise earlier, right? Like how do we kind of reach a middle ground that feels good for both of you?
That's
already that you were saying.
So So no, that answers the question, but it kind of surprised me, you know, thinking about it. Yeah, I'm sure some people do actually have it playing in the background, and I just wonder, like, is it? And this question probably would be a question that follows up to that. So how would you help remedy that, where you're helping them to make it more interesting in the bedroom?
Yes. Novelty. Like, I feel. Listen, routine. This is the difficult part. Love, and this is the work of Esther Perel. Quoting some of her stuff. Love is about knowing everything about you, security, safety, right? Like, love wants to know. Desire wants to be curious. Desire needs novelty.
That's curious again, she said.
Yeah.
She said it again.
Right now,
She said it again.
desire, it's about the unknown, right? So some people fall into the routine, and unfortunately, desire is sensitive. So if we have too much responsibility, so we're not living together actually is where a lot of issues begin to show up. They wouldn't be issues if they were more normalized, because now I see you every day. Now I see that you leave your stinky socks, in the bedroom. Now I see that, I asked you to wash the dishes. Now we're talking about bills. That's not sexy. Right? So it's important to understand routine also makes us feel safe, right? Like, especially people with histories of trauma, or like predictability. They don't like the unknown. But novelty is where it's at. And novelty is anything from, not being closed off to things that you haven't tried.
Okay.
Right? Like, when it comes to kink, guys, I'm super kink friendly. I believe in
I was gonna say she's mentioned kink a couple times.
because
Curiosity and kink, those go together too. Like,
sensation play, right? Like, all of these things, or even going to a new restaurant, right? Like, when we go to a restaurant, we have to get dressed up. During pandemic, I had a wave of people come to me because the main issue where people weren't having sex was time, and now they had all the time in the world. And now they look at each other and they're like, we're still not having sex. What's going on here? So novelty, it could be anything from trying something new in the bedroom, but it could also be in going to an adult store to see what tickles your pickle, right? Is there something that I want to try? It could be, right, like going to a concert. Again, if you're auditory, if you like to dance. I love to dance.
are we supposed to change that term, tickle your pickle? I think nowadays women are more going into the sex stores than men.
Yeah, well, I think because women, I wonder if there's more permission to explore their sexuality, right? And I wonder, as men, guys, do you feel comfortable going into an adult store?
You want to go first? Or?
I really don't care. Like, it's fine. Let's say I'm in a relationship or I'm talking to somebody who's interested in it. I'm perfectly fine with going in there. You know my boundaries. That's one. Well, at the point in time we have that conversation, she would most likely already know my boundaries, know the type of person I am, the type of guy I am, and I would know who she is also. So
so you have to feel comfortable.
Yeah, going into I think I'm automatically comfortable, but going into adult store with her is fine for me. It's more of her knowing or understanding that I get it. Like, if that's what you want to go do, that's fine. I understand.
I'm sorry, man.
For what?
Can I interject?
Yes, sir.
Please.
I'm not going into a sex store by myself or with a homie. I'm going with a girl. So it looks like we're trying to explore something. If I go by myself, something's wrong. If I go with my homie, something's wrong. So I'd rather go with a woman
to a sex store with a guy.
Yeah, something's hella wrong if you're going. So
I'll be.
They're not homeboys. They're something else.
I didn't even think about that being a possibility when you asked the question, because I'm definitely not walking to a sex store with a guy. Because speaking about that, right? Because there's back in the days, right? There's guys who would watch porn together or watch the adult industry together. For me, like, I've never been in sex. Like, nah, for what?
But yeah, but
why are we watching this together for?
But you would be surprised how many stories I've heard of like friends, like masturbating together. It's
whoa. I mean,
but it happens. Wow. It happens. And people are confused by it because they don't really, but I think but I wonder, what do you think people are going to perceive? Because if you own your male sexuality and you go into a store, who cares what other people think?
Yeah. Like for me,
in my privacy.
For me, it's like, I would never do it, but it falls into, let's go ahead, let's speak of adult category. So it falls into, and you tell me as the expert, because this is me making assumptions. So you tell me as the expert, so those guys who are comfortable with masturbating in the same room, they'll be the same guys who are comfortable with being swingers and comfortable with doing orgies and things such as that.
Yeah, not necessarily, but maybe there's something about, remember, everybody's unique. And I think that's why I was trying to use the analogy of the penis. Like, both the penis are like, so one penis, vulvas too, they're very unique. So people are very unique, right? Like when we think about, for example, group sex or threesomes or orgies, there's a psychological component. It's being wanted by more than one person. People cockholding, right? When people like to watch their partner with somebody else, it's interesting. Guys, I found that the emotional component with that one is that they get to play out their jealousy. Sometimes these men are jealous, but they get to get control of the jealousy because now they are in the scene and they're watching their partner be with somebody else.
I asked you about that because it's been a growing topic for years now.
Yes.
Wow.
So there is, so group sex, right? Like there's another, pretty popular one. I believe this study was in 2021, if I'm not mistaken, where they saw, what was the most search on Pornhub. What do you guys think? So I'm going to give you
searched
on Pornhub.
What I see often advertised is this whole stepsister, stepmother stuff, and that's crazy.
Yes.
Oh, damn. I was going to say midgets. All right. I'm just joking. It's just a joke. We all got our fetishes.
So you were for real when you don't want anybody to look at your porn history.
See why?
So no, no, MILF or the older woman, right? Because and there's an emotional component to that too. Because if you watch those scenes, the older woman is telling the man what to do, right? Like, so I don't have to guess. You're telling me what to do, and there's always an emotional component to all of that. Fetishes, there could be something there, but people also like certain things, and that's okay too. Yeah. In sexuality, we don't want to judge as long as everybody's consenting. Yeah. And we're not hurting anybody. Do your thing.
Yeah, I won't lie. I think they need to stop. They need to stop with the titles, the teen titles. They need to stop that. The stepsister,
Oh my God! So you guys, yes, thank you for mentioning this. I watched a documentary. I think it's called Hot Girls Wanted. Yes, that's it. And Erica Lutz was talking about the erotic porn that she's creating, and she's showing stuff on a mainstream porn, like the big guy. These teens are of age, but she's like wearing a little dress. It's like, why?
That's wow.
Yes, and there's no representation of female sexuality, right? Like there's a lot of aggression, and it's always women. If you guys see, how many times you see like 3 guys, on a clitoris and on a vulva. You see 3 women on a penis, right? So there's not enough representation of female sexuality. And then we wonder why there's such an issue with low libido.
So in your history, have you had women who are interested in multiple male partners?
Yeah, of course, right? People in polyamory, right? That they don't just want one partner. They want to be with other partners. Yeah, you get your needs met when one person doesn't want it. I think that there's actually more women that maybe would like this setup. But again, right? Like, what do we call women, especially historically, that sleep around or that are open about their sexuality? There's not a lot of positivity around that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So, why can't we be, right? Would that make long-term relationships different if I was able to tell you what I want and what I don't?
Yeah.
And be more open with my sexuality.
That's true. And you tell me because And maybe it is because of society. I'm not sure, because I do come across women, and like throughout my lifetime, I've probably had more women who were bisexual or leaning towards the direction a little bit more than anything. So I've come across women who are interested in having a one male, one female partner. And it kind of feels like nowadays, it's actually like real popular for some reason. And that's what I'm seeing, basically looking out. It seems like that's more popular. I've met a few women that definitely told me, yeah, when it comes to it, they have no interest in women, so they do prefer a male and a woman. I'm sorry, two male instead of a male and a woman. They are interested in two males. So is it because of society, or is it just a lot of the preference tend to lean more towards women wanting to be with other women also?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we were talking about, is preference, right? Like, I think if, women, everybody probably in this room has watched girl on girl porn. It is extremely sensual, right? There's a lot of sensuality.
Yeah.
So if that person likes to experience that sensuality with their female counterpart, but then they want a little bit of the roughness with the male counterpart, for some people, two men are a thing. For some people, it's like two dicks, too many.
So the relationship is that preference is more because of sensuality, maybe? Is that what it is?
Yeah, but it's that person's preference.
Yeah.
I think that we have so much information, and we always need to have like a reason. Sometimes there isn't a reason. Sometimes there is. And sometimes what I feel is that women feel safe with other women, right? There's more of like an intellectual or emotional connection, right? But, if you like two men or a woman and a man, hey, more power to you.
I understand.
So, Paula, my final question before we get up out of here, it's very important to me.
Okay.
How can a couple be more creative in the bedroom?
Yes. Creativity. We got creativity. We got novelty. We got curiosity. I would say with creativity.
Curiosity, she said it again.
Again.
With creativity, guys, don't fall on this mental trap that we have to do something. Go to a swingers club. No. Right? Like, maybe what would happen if you leave her or him a sticky note, right? And if you role play, and maybe you guys meet each other at a bar, but with role play is very important. Do not get out of the role play. If you're going to meet, and you go in different cars, and you're going to meet at a bar, and she's going to be sitting there, and you're going to come up, and you get to be witty. You get to see your partner with different eyes, right? So creativity can be something small. It can be she comes home, you have a bath done for her, and then, there is the room, even though it's our room, you dim the lights, you put a little bit of baby making music, even though you're not making a baby. You put candles. And then you entice, you invite, right? Because we're all visual. So it could be something small to something a little bit bigger, but creativity, like you said earlier, I think sex is art.
Yeah.
I think there's an art to it, and not being afraid to try new things. And laugh about it. If something, didn't work, laugh about it. Be silly, right? Because that gives you a topic of conversation. That's how you get to know each other.
So it's important to be friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when you think about friends, right? Like, how many times have we had arguments with our friends, but we know we're going to be okay?
Yeah.
I think that's such an important piece. Like, we're going to argue about this, but we're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not going to go run out or escape. We're going to be good. But novelty is so key, and creativity is so key.
Yeah.
We get bored. If we're doing sex the same way, this is what I call scripted sex. And this is what we see in the movies. I look at you, you look at me. Sorry. Clothes come off. Then it's very dun. It gets the job done, but eventually becomes boring. And then you end up in my office. Right? So these are little tips and tools that you can do on your own. Right? When people and people do this, oh man, our sexual relationship is so boring. Are we gonna? Okay, but what are you doing about it?
Yeah.
Stop talking about it and come up with something. Because when we start talking about it, it's like, okay, who you, me, who's gonna do something about it? Go be creative on your own and invite your partner.
Nobody likes a complainer, guys. Complaining.
And women don't like to be emotionally responsible. I've noticed that actually when you're too emotionally responsible for your partner, and I would say something similar with all genders actually.
Yeah.
I like responsibility, boner killer. And when I use boner, I'm talking about not only men, all genders, I don't mean to, but you know what I mean. Right? Like it kills the vibe for all of us. And so I think responsibility is one of those things. If you have somebody constantly being negative, that's tough. That weighs heavy. It's going to be, we're not a light switch. It's going to be really hard to turn off and then turn on and be sexual with someone.
So as you're saying, because you use curiosity a lot. So as you're saying, to be curious, you have to be comfortable with the person. So being friends is very important. And that's one of the top things or type of advice that I've ever given women is like, you want to find a guy that you are friends with. Like a lot of women, I feel, and you to let me know, they've overlooked their mate because the mate started off as friends, and that's like the perfect mate for them. But they overlooked them because I don't even know where it came from, how that came about, that, oh no, I'm not going to date my friend. I don't want to do this and do that. I know it's really fear-based, of fear of loss and don't want to lose a relationship. Exactly. But it's crazy to me that you want to find a stranger and make them your friend in the relationship when you have a friend that's already known you. They getting to know you, that friend did that already.
Oh, but the way that I would frame it actually would be take the characteristics and the qualities of a friendship. Because really, when we think about friends, again, we argue and we know we're going to be okay. I could be open, right? Like if my friend got really tipsy, I'm not going to judge her. The next day I'm like, bitch, I got you home safe. We're good.
Yeah.
Right? But I think take the qualities of a friendship and bring it into your relationship. But also don't shut down that just because we're friends, but it is fear-based. Because sometimes the friendship feels so good, you feel so safe with this person that if we take it to an intimate place or we take it to an intimate connection and it doesn't work, am I going to lose somebody that I'm really close to?
Yeah. I think life is a flow, so you shouldn't be afraid of that. Like being able to, let's say a friend that you've gotten intimate with and being able to go back to being friends and both having understanding, I think that's a beautiful thing because you had desires for each other. You went ahead and experienced, because I think that in a certain change, or is the change that happens in the friendship is frustration sometimes, because now you're telling somebody who's interested in you just rejected the person because of your fear.
Right. And fear gets in the way of, you and I were talking about this, that we're so afraid that we're going to get hurt, that these are not going to work out. We live in the future. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. All we have control of is right here, right now. And it.
That's amazing.
Man, Paola, you've been amazing.
Thank you, guys.
This set has been amazing. Just to talk about sex, it's been amazing. So tell the people where they can find you and your YouTube and so forth.
Sure. So, guys, my Instagram is Sessions with Paola, SEXXIONS with Paola. I also have a YouTube channel. The links are on my Instagram. And if you wanted to work with me privately, life discovery psychotherapy. And if you wanted to do groups, I am starting that this year because, some people don't need individual therapy or it's not within their budget. So groups is a way for me to reach out more people. So I have groups on low libido, men and vulnerability, sex work groups. It's a way to support each other, guys, because humans are meant to connect. We are meant to support each other. We have a whole bunch of people telling us and feeding division. We got to come together. That's how we win. So, and that is PaolaAndreaRodriguez.com.
Love it, man.
Amazing.
El, man, you want to end this? You want to end it for us?
Well, this has been an amazing conversation, and like the name says, it's real talk. So make sure you connect, follow on the platforms. You can always see Pastor Peart doing his thing, having the conversations. Sometimes, the conversations a lot of people are not having. Yes. So it is very important. We appreciate what you're doing, Pastor Peart.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, thank you for having me and contacting me. I'm so excited to be here, guys. Always happy for people like you that are making spaces for us to talk about the things that we don't talk about.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, and thank you for being such an amazing guest. A lot of knowledge has been dropped. And what's the key word we're taking away from it today?
Curiosity.
Yes.
That's right.
Real talk, man.
I'm tryna go hard in the paint. I'm tryna stack cash in the bank. Bitch, let's get to the money. Why you laughing? Ain't shit funny.